Hi boys and girls. Today we're going to read about a composer who is from Italy, and if you can remember, take a moment, ponder, who else have we read about that was Italian? Vivaldi, okay? But he was unique in that he wasn't just a composer, he was also a farmer, so we're going to learn a little bit about that. He was born in Italy in 1813, and he died in 1901. Here's a caricature of him. And as you can see, that their clothes started to change, right? We're looking for trends. Look at the hair. The hair is changing, the clothes are changing. On the day in 1814 when the army invaded the tiny Italian village of La Roncole, Verdi ran up into the bell tower of the town's church. Now I'm going to spell that because I could definitely be saying it wrong. It's Leroncole, Luigia. The soldiers killed everyone in the church except her and the baby she had grabbed on her way. They hid in the tower until the army was gone and it was safe to come down. His mother had saved Verdi's life and part of the history of opera. As an altar boy at the same church for a few years, Verdi was so entranced when he first heard an organ play that he didn't hear the priest telling him what to do. The priest lost his temper and pushed the boy down the stairs. Well, that wasn't very nice. Verdi, when he came to, begged his parents for music lessons. He was the village organist by age 10, and in his teens he walked 6 miles, rain or shine, between 2 towns for his organist job. Now, boys and girls, next time you get in the car with mom or dad, and I know right now we're not driving around a lot, but have them, if you're going a distance, have them drive 6 miles so you get a sense of how far 6 miles is, because walking 6 miles, that's quite a distance. One stormy Christmas Eve, he fell into a flooded drainage ditch and he had to be rescued. Verdi married his childhood sweetheart, Margherita. He wrote his second opera during a tragic period when his wife and his 2 children fell ill and died. Again, I know I'm stopping, but we're looking for trends, and you can see that people, they didn't have antibiotics, and that made a huge difference with when people got the flu or tuberculosis or smallpox. It could be fatal, sadly. Anyway, he was writing this opera, and it was supposed to be a comic opera, but perhaps Verdi was too sad to make it lighthearted. For when it was produced, the audience hissed their disapproval. I've never heard of that. Verdi was disappointed, and he swore off composing. Then the manager of La Scala Opera House in Milan begged him to write music for a new libretto. Verdi wasn't going to read it, but his eye happened to fall on a page, and he was up all night. By morning, he had the words memorized. The result was his 3rd opera, Nabucco. That's the name of the opera. And this time the roar of approval was so loud that it frightened Verdi. He thought the audience was booing. With later operas, such as Aida, A-I-D-A, or La Traviata, Traviata, the rehearsal halls had to be sealed against thousands wanting early peaks. Verdi cared little what critics thought about his music, but he did want to please the public. The public will stand for anything except boredom. The public was far from bored, and with his riches, Verdi brought a farm in the country. Verdi was probably the only important composer who was also a successful farmer. Using the latest techniques, he grew vegetables, raised livestock, and planted a tree every time he finished an opera. He and his second wife, a famous soprano named Giuseppina, and again, I'm going to spell it because I could very well be saying it incorrectly, Giuseppina. They had no children. He loved animals. He had cats, parrots, peacocks, and a spaniel named Lulu. He often wore a flower in his buttonhole, and the only presents he liked were pants. He liked khakis. Verdi liked the simple life. He awoke at 5, walked around his estate, perhaps going for a sail across his lake in a small boat. He liked to read poetry, especially Shakespeare, and history, and he went to bed early. Verdi might also be the only composer who was also a senator. With reluctance, he kept his appointment to the Italian legislature, where his main concern was to put free musical education in the schools. I did not know that. I think I really like Verdi now. That's amazing, isn't it? That even back then, he was concerned that boys and girls got music education. Verdi would not have liked this book. He wanted his music to speak for him, and he thought his life was nobody's business. Once he hid out in a tool shed when a group of fans came to visit. A much-loved figure in Italy, Verdi lived to be 87 years old, which was very old for that time. His funeral was huge, and everyone sang songs from, of course, operas. And I'm just going to say a little bit about operas, okay? Because opera was probably not one of my favorite kinds of music. And when I went to music school, I took like several years of music history, 4 semesters to be exact, and opera was part of that. So whether I liked it or not, I had to learn about it. And what I learned was that as I began to understand it a little bit more, I began to like it. So one thing is, if you're going to listen to an opera, you need to know the storyline. So if you're going to listen to it in English, you can read the storyline, but a lot of opera is in German, Italian, and so if you don't know the storyline, it's boring because they're singing. It's sort of interesting. There's costumes, but you don't know what they're saying. So, and I would also suggest that you start off simple. Don't maybe not watch the whole thing at once because they tend to be rather long. But if you understand the storyline, opera can be fun. But otherwise, if you don't know what's going on, it's boring. So that's Verdi, and we will meet again. And finally, our next composer is going to be a female. Okay, so if there's any girls out there, I'm finally going to get around to reading about a woman composer.